Okay, so I'm still on the Alaska Highway. I'm at Fort Nelson Heritage Museum. It's open Monday through Friday, and oh, I think the times are here. I'm corrected. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. If you are coming from the northbound and heading through, this is like the first stop on the northern side of the town of Fort Nelson, and it'll be on your right hand side as you travel southbound. So it looks like, and they have a lot of stuff outside there. You could do a assisted tour with 7 outbuildings that are out in this area, and then I'm going to go in a moment and I'm going to the main building, and there's a lot of vehicles and some other equipment on the outside. But we'll go explore the inside now. So this first part, you have like a lot of museums. You'll have a gift shop. What's kind of cool about these? Oh, this is the book I was telling you guys about earlier, the Milepost. This is the one I had before I started my trip. Always make sure you get the latest edition of it. The 76th edition is what else currently, and that is like updated all the time. So if you're going to be traveling, and what's cool about it, it does cover Alaska and Canada. So that's the Bible if you're coming into this area. But places like this, they have a lot of local other books that mention some of the local history and things that are of this exact area. Actually, this is the one that was recommended on another video I was talking about, although I couldn't find it. How interesting it's here. So anyways, this was one that talks a lot about the Alaska Highway and the different characters and some of the challenges that came about. So it's funny because there's a lot of, actually because where we're at, I keep pointing out all the taxidermied animals and all the museums I go to. So you can do a lot of research ahead of time, but places like this, when you come here, is really good to get some of the local history and local information. So one of my favorite things right now is that it's very cool and air conditioned in here. So when I traveled, we just came up from Dawson Creek all the way up here, and everyone's saying, "Oh, wait till you see the wildlife on your." And it was a beautiful ride. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was just remarkable terrain and just awesome for a motorcyclist. A lot of fun, but the only thing I saw was 2 crows. I didn't see any of these guys. Maybe this is all I'm going to see. I expect to see some, but I didn't see any of these guys. Mama bear, baby bear. I got some old weapons here. Diddly-do right. And a bunch of boat motors, which I know nothing about. Don't know if that works. Oh, this is really cool. So I was into model railroading when I was younger. This is an HO scale. My buddy Bill Blom gave me a bunch of HO scale trains about a year ago, maybe less. I mean, if I had the space to do something like this is kind of cool. On this drive, on this motorcycle ride actually, as you're riding along and you see the trains go along the rivers or some of these industrial areas, I've often said that. It's like, oh yeah, this is what people make railroad model train dioramas out of. Oh, there was a fire too. Oh, I guess this talks about World War I, 1914. Maybe Canada's involvement with it. Oh, there's a movie by this name. If you ever get a chance, you should watch it. I saw the movie. It's pretty interesting. I think they have a video playing I'm going to watch. Oh, it's the Alaska Highway video. It's like the same one I saw in the other place, but I have more time to watch it, so I'm going to watch this one fully. Looks like Belmont's truck. So the video I just watched, let me see if I can get myself in frame. Gotta be careful. So the video I just watched, it kind of explained a little bit further. So as I said in prior videos, it opens up after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and it was funded and developed by the Department of War, which is the Department of Defense today. I didn't realize it, but they actually hired on a lot of Canadian civilians to do the work. They turned it over fully to the Canadian authorities 6 months after the Japanese signed the surrender. And for a few years, they were trying to modify it. It was really hard to get it up to any kind of standard where civilians can use it, and they tried to monitor that for a while. Then they closed it down totally in 1948 to all civilian traffic again, because there's just too many wrecks. It wasn't that established of a road yet to have civilians drive it, so they totally shut it down. And then the Canadian government, Department of Transportation, their version of the Department of Transportation came in and just started really working hard on it. But like I said earlier, it wasn't paved fully until way later. But they did open it up to civilian traffic, so that's interesting to see that. So this is they call it the Heritage Museum because it has a lot of heritage. It has a lot of Canadian, Vancouver 2010, has a lot of Canadian local heritage stuff. This isn't strictly about the Alaska Highway, although that video did show it. And if I remember right, what I found out is that what we're seeing it started from an individual's private collection of just a bunch of what I understand is that the guy that started it, and I can ask one of the docents, the guy that started it saw a lot of waste, a lot of things being thrown out by the Canadian government or the Canadian military, and he just started gathering it and collecting it and needed a place to put it. And these forts, like this one is Fort Nelson, I don't know if this is a historical fort that was established by the U.S. Army, a historical fort by the Canadian Army. You know, was this fort established solely for more adding machines? More adding machines. I expect to see more dolls too. But was it what kind of fort was it, and where was the fort located? And is there any kind of remnants of the fort today? Looks very similar to the other museum I was looking at. Oh, this is jail. That looks comfy. Wow. Got looked up at the Fort Nelson Heritage Museum. Like us on Facebook. Well, you don't see these anymore. You don't see payphones. You really don't see them rotary. A couple of phones up there. Yeah, right. Oh, I think this was just for his enthusiasm and determination to preserve his history of the Fort Nelson area for future generations. Hey guys, let me introduce you to Jamie. She's going to thoroughly explain what I just walked through in this building at Fort Nelson. But let me start with the first question I asked. So one thing I was telling people is I don't know what kind of fort it was, and you just mentioned it. What kind of fort was Fort Nelson?
We were established as a fur trading post, and we were named after Lord Horatio Nelson, and that was just after the Battle of Trafalgar, and then so that's why our namesake is Fort Nelson. And we were just a fur trading post. We were originally established in 1805, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And then when the highway came through, that like really solidified and put us on the map. But Fort Nelson has actually moved 5 times, so we've had several different locations over the years. We've had like flooding, we've had fires, there was a massacre, there's been a whole slew of reasons. And then when the highway was coming through, right across the street from us actually was one of the main army camps. So this is kind of why we've become this central area here.
Okay, so is there any remnant buildings of what the fort once was at all?
So there is the old fort location, and there are a few buildings out there. I know the game warden's cabin is out there. There's an old church out there. There's even a few people that still reside out there. It's quite difficult to get out there unless you have like a very big truck or like 4x4 like quads or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not in great shape. A lot of it is really in disrepair.
But it's not really a touristy thing people go to.
No,
No,
not
okay.
because it is so difficult to get to as well. I
Okay.
think if the road was more maintained, it'd be different. But yeah.
No, so what I saw in here, I saw a lot of eclectic things, a lot of items from different areas. And one of the questions I was asking you is, where do the items, who started it, where do the items come from, why are there so many, and how does it continue?
Yeah, so in 1977, our main founder, Marl Brown, he basically said, hey, we need to call a meeting. Anybody that's interested can come. And then he said, we really need a museum. So that night, they formed the Historical Society. And then 10 years later, we were opening our doors, and it was a lot of fundraising and donations that got us off the ground. And so a lot of our collection has been brought in by locals or people close to the area or that have heard about our museum, and they've donated items over the years. We've almost been a society for 50 years now and opened for 40, so
Oh, wow.
it's really exciting. We've just done this large expansion onto our main building.
Well, I saw that where the train station was, or the train thing, Gummerama.
So that part of our building just opened last year for public, and so it's been a really great asset. We were just bursting at the seams. We needed more space. And we just keep getting constant donations. The society is very active still in the community and trying to bring in different things. We now have space for traveling exhibits, which is really, really exciting. So, yeah.
So then, and heritage-wise, when I was walking around, like looks like local, historical, country. I mean, yeah, stuff that has to do with Canada, stuff to do with Canada during the wars, World War I, World War II. Stuff has to do with the Alaska Highway. So heritage, if somebody's coming through here, they can really grasp everything from historically reaching far back,
Yes, absolutely.
even to what you said, the fur trade time,
Yep.
up to the Alaska Highway being built, to local Fort Nelson information in Canada. Cool. All right, so thank you very much. What was your name again?
Jamie.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And then I'll have one of the other docents is going to take me around a little bit. But thank you for your time. You explained it a lot better than I can.
Perfect.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so one of the docents here named Dwayne, he's actually going to give me, it's kind of cool because I'm the only one here and he's giving me a personal guided tour. So he's going to explain to me, I guess there's 7 outbuildings, and he called this one the car shed. And it looks like I'm walking into, I'm not a car, you guys know I'm not a car aficionado, but I'm going to call this a 1956 Chevy, but I'm not sure, I'm sure.
Close. 1957 Chevy Bel Air.
1957 Chevy Bel Air.
So we house over 20 cars in here. 4 of them are over.
How many?
Over 20.
Do you mind if I put you on?
I don't.
All right, Dwayne's going to explain it better than I can.
So we house over 20 cars in here. 4 of them are over 100 years old. Our oldest is our 1908 McLaughlin Buick right here, which is 116 this year. Our second oldest is our 1909 Brush on the other side of the Chev here, which is 115.
That green one?
The red one.
Oh, I see it.
And then I'm going to make you walk back all the way over here.
Okay.
To our third oldest, our 1920 Willys Overland, which is 104 this year.
What is it?
Willys Overland.
This is a Willys?
Yeah.
So this is the great-great-great-grandfather of the Willys Jeep. Oh man, it has a Alaska Highway logo on it
And
too.
then just turned 100 this year is our 1924 Dodge Type A here in the back corner.
So this is a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
Organization. This one here, the one in the back.
Yeah, the one in the back corner.
So where did all these? I mean, not every single one of them. These look. I'm not a car person. I'm really not. But from my novice eye, these two look very similar.
They are very similar.
Okay.
A lot of cars at the time, like even if you look at the Fords, they look very similar to the Dodges and the Durants.
So where do they all come from? No, like I said, not all of them, but where
Marl collected most of these.
has he passed on since?
Yes, he passed in 2021.
So the founder or the originator of this museum, the one I'm in, most of the cars came from him. Am I correct on that statement?
And every single car you see parked in here and parked up on the front lawn there, all still run as well.
What?
Yeah.
All these cars will
All
run.
these cars run.
You guys, did you hear that? Every single one of these cars will run. That
We take
is,
a few of them out every year for Canada Day.
oh my goodness. That is just amazing.
So this year we had the 55 Studebaker President here that's here in front of.
Yeah.
The 39 Packard, the 54 Packard, the 57 Chev, the 55 English Ford Prefect, and the 1924 Dodge Type A.
I gotta go take a look at that motorcycle really quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Oops. Now, how would you like to ride that on the Alcan and then up through the Dalton? This is very, very cool. I like the little buggy too. That's an original. Looks like 1888 for
Yeah.
original.
Bought in 1888. Technically, if you look at it, that's technically our oldest.
But motor operated.
Motor
you're-
operated is the Diva.
You guys got them packed in here pretty good too.
Yeah.
How many? Do you guys know how many visitors you guys get on the average month or a year?
It varies. Before COVID, it was like really up there. I think this year we average about 500 to 600 people per month
Wow. Okay.
between locals and tourists and bus tours and caravans. Yeah, so we also have license plates from all over the world.
Yeah, they got. So he said New Zealand was the farthest that he knows of on his personal experience. A visitor coming in from New Zealand, but I'm looking around. I see a couple of. I'm from Washington State, so I see a couple of Washington State plates.
Yeah, we
Which
got Costa Rica, Cuba.
do people come in and bring them to you, saying I want my plate in your museum?
So that's where
New
kind of
Mexico.
the mail-in donation.
Okay, so it looks like they got some. Once again, guys, I'm not an automobile or a tractor person. I just like looking at them.
Yeah, I can't give you much on the tractors. We have quite a few.
Are any of these operational?
With a bit of love and care, they would be. Yeah.
Looks like a tram or a.
That is a cable car. It was used in the Alberta to Alaska cable car system.
Check that out, guys.
So kind of wherever they couldn't put a bridge in, they would put a Cable system up.
This is no more in effect.
No.
When did this stop being used?
I'd say just after the building of the highway. Yeah, so this is the first post office in Fort Nelson. It was originally out at the Mile 300 Army Air Base, which is now our airport, and then moved beside CIBC Bank, and then brought here to the museum property.
This is the structure then.
This is the actual post office, yeah.
Iron potbelly stove.
Right here we have our Northwest Tel and CN Telecommunications building. So we built this building here on property to house all of this old equipment. So you have your operator tables, old phones, old telephone line equipment, old servers. Most of this was donated from Northwest Tel and CN Tel up in Whitehorse.
A lot of these, I mean, these phones are mostly, I mean, I recognize these from my era, you know, these here from my era, but even my daughters, they're 19 and 20 years old, they would not know how to, they actually saw one like that and they go, how did you make this work? Because they didn't know that you had to put your finger in there and turn it. Wow. So this structure that we're standing in, this was built.
This was built here on the property.
So this is not a historical structure
No,
per
this
se,
one's
but
not historical.
but it was built in this fashion to house what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So we're walking into this right now, you guys. It says Hudson Bay House. And was this structure relocated here?
Yeah, so the Hudson Bay House was originally built in 1943.
Oops.
Rebuilt ML 295, the Alaska Highway, and then 1981 became part of our museum. So this is where the manager and his family of the Hudson Bay Company
Oh, no
and
kidding.
his family lived, while he was managing the fur trading post and the store up here. And this was also one of the first houses in Fort Nelson to have an indoor water pump in the kitchen and an indoor washroom as well.
So before that, they would have to like bring their water in by buckets, or they would just
Yeah.
do it in a different.
They would just bring it in.
Oh,
by
I see. So,
buckets.
so where we turn on a faucet, they were pumping the water in.
Yeah.
And who was this house? Who lived in it again?
The manager and his family of the Hudson Bay Company.
Of the Hudson Bay. And what the Hudson Bay Company was, an export import
They were fur trading.
fur trading.
Well, now they're a big department store, but
Yeah,
when they started out, they were fur trading.
yeah. When you said Hudson Bay, I was like, man, that sounds very familiar. But it's still an active store now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Boy Blue or something like that. I think they have a picture of that changes. I'm not joking. In the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, of that little guy. But this is relocated here.
Yeah.
So this might have been, if people weren't preserving it, this might have been torn down.
Yeah.
So the bathtub, you had to bring the water in.
Yeah.
Right. And then they probably had a drain or something on the bottom. I always wonder that when you watch like those old Western movies when they're taking a bath. It's like, where's that water go? How do they get the water in there? This is pretty, this is pretty sizable. Mm-hmm. There was a second floor too.
Yeah, so it's a 3-bedroom house.
3 rooms upstairs.
There's 2 bedrooms upstairs because your other room was right there beside the bathroom.
Okay, that's right, where the mannequin was sleeping.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, interesting. We don't have to go upstairs, it's all right.
It's probably hotter than the sauna up there. So the next building we have is our Anglican church.
I'm going to guess that car's not working anymore.
Yeah, you'd be right there. Yeah, so this is our Anglican church, which was originally used as an army mess hall for the U.S. Army during World War II. And then was used as an active church until about 2008. And was moved here to the museum in 2013.
And where was it when it was an Army mess hall? Where was it?
Out at it was probably around in town here when the highway was built. It was kind of moved around.
So U.S. Army chow hall, mess hall for the purpose of when they're building the Alaska Highway. Okay.
And then so the Anglican Church bought this off the U.S. Army for $151.
$151.
And then before COVID, we did hold some Sunday services in here, and
Really?
we've held weddings in here, and we do take booking.
When was the last time it was actively used as a church?
2008 was the last time it was used as an active
Here,
church.
on this property?
Not on this property.
Oh.
Probably before COVID, so...
I find it so amazing. This isn't the only place I've ever seen where they actually get structures and then they move them to a different location. What a daunting task. I just don't... The undertaking to do that.
Like, back when we saw the newspaper of them moving the church here to the museum.
This is an unbelievable task. And now the property we're on, the acreage, was this acreage, was this acquired by the nonprofit, by the Historical Society once they got organized in 1987?
So it was acquired before 1987 because the Marl and a lot of volunteers built the main log building that you started off in.
Uh-huh. Was this private property at one point?
I think it was owned by the town before.
Okay.
So then they bought it from the town.
So has tourism visitors picked up a bit since COVID
For
ended?
sure, yeah. Lighthouse.
And who was Earl Bartlett?
So Earl Bartlett was known as Mr. Alaska Highway. He started the Alaska Highway Postcard Service. So he drove up and down this highway more times than anyone can count, taking pictures, making postcards, selling postcards. He drove that 1957 red and white Chev
Okay.
in the car shed there.
The first one I saw.
Yeah, that was his car. And then this was his house, and most of the furniture in here is his original furniture.
So, okay, if I understand correctly, so this guy, his name's Earl.
Earl, yeah.
So he did a lot of traveling documentation, historical photographing, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of what he did after, because he moved up here originally in 1943 as a construction engineer for the Royal Canadian Army.
So there's I'm gonna forget his name now. There's a guy that did something very similar for Route 66, and I often talk about him. I can't remember his name now. His parents had the Cozy Cone in Springfield, Illinois. Oh man, I feel so bad. But he did the same thing. He traveled up and down Route 66. He did some artist work. He did some artist renditioning. He did postcards. Kind of just spent his time in a VW bus, and then a bigger bus, a school bus he converted. And for the life of me right now, I say his name all the time, and I can't remember it as I'm thinking of him. Waldmeyer, Bob Waldmeyer. So if you ever heard that name, Bob Waldmeyer, it's similar but different to what this gentleman did when it came to capturing the essence of the Alaska Highway. Now I've also heard that originally, or at one point, it was known as the Alaska Canadian Highway or Alaska Canada Highway. Then the acronym ALCAN. But now, am I correct by saying it's just simply referred to as the Alaska Highway?
Yeah, Alaska Highway.
So everyone knows it as the Alaska Highway
Yeah.
now, pretty much.
We still have people come in that call it the Alcan and know it as the Alcan.
Is that any way, does it sound outdated to you or?
Not overly.
So tell me again, what is this house?
So this is our Trapper's Cabin. It's a replica Trapper's Cabin. So it's about 4 times bigger than a normal Trapper's Cabin.
4 times bigger.
With a very hot lock.
So I went to a Trapper's Canyon in Dawson. It was yesterday, last evening, when we got into Dawson Creek. Because we came up from there. And you're right, it was a lot smaller than this one. So do you know anything about Charbonneau from the Lewis and Clark expedition? He was a French trapper that Lewis and Clark hooked up with. Apparently Charbonneau ended up, I don't know if you can call it marrying, but took Sacagawea as his wife. He came down from Canada, but I don't think he was this high up. I know he was a French trapper named Charbonneau that came from Canada.
And trapping's still pretty common up here as well. A lot of people still have trap lines.
So when we talk, this is my novice because I can only guess what trapping is. So you talk about like traps put out there to capture animals, use their skins.
So here's one on the wall over here. Like this is a bear trap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen these only in movies.
The bear would step onto that plate there, and it would snap up.
People still do that here, huh?
Yeah, there's more humane traps than that one. Like this one here. This is a pretty common one that's still used. This is for smaller animals.
Okay.
So you'd have a tripwire in there and food at the back of it, and once it would go in, this would shut in.
Because wildlife is so plentiful out here. I mean, what are they using it for? Their skins, I guess, huh?
Yeah. So before it was a lot of like making hats and everything, and now it's a lot of like mitts and coats and.
He wasn't happy about his outcome.
No.
This is a very interesting. Looks like a single shot shotgun, possibly bolt
That
loaded.
is a Swiss service rifle.
Man, I've never seen anything like that. So the trappers' cabins were pretty rudimentary. I mean, it's just basically, well, it looks like they had a heating element and a cooking element.
What you have is a stove about this size, or even smaller, a cot to sleep on, and a table and a chair.
Okay, so not always would they have. So the stove would double.
To cook on,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that provided heat and element to cook.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there still trappers' cabins out there?
Yeah.
That's just amazing. Because, I mean, just the drive, you feel like you're going through a different era, a different time zone. All right, so before we walked in, what's your name again? Dwayne. So something caught my eye, and unfortunately it's being blocked right now. But I asked Dwayne to explain it to me. Let me see if I can walk around. He can tell me about it.
So this engine is off of a Fairchild C-82 military plane that crashed off of our runway out at our airport during World War II. So we have this one that still has the blades intact on it. You have one over there on the other side of the motorcycle there that's a little more beat up. And then in the back corner of our field over here, you can kind of see from the landing here sticking up from it, is the tail end of the
So you said it's a C-42?
C-82.
C-82. So C would stand for cargo. But can you tell us anything else about that particular plane or what the missions were about it?
I don't know that much on it.
Who was a C-82? Who was the manufacturer? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
So it was a military plane during World War II, but it crashed here on their field here.
It took off on our runway and didn't make very far and crashed.
Do you know how many engines total? I could look it up. But
I think I have 4 total because we have 3 of them.
Oh, you have 3 of the engines from that very plane?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought when you were saying that engine, I thought that was just a different type of
No,
engine.
we have 3 from that plane.
Okay. Any fatalities in that accident? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Right. So hey, everybody, that's gonna be it for this one. Head back to the hotel. And I want to say Dwayne. So thanks to Dwayne from the Fort Nelson Heritage Museum for giving me that walk around. Come see them. Open 7 days a week from 9
a.m. to 6 p.m.
9 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's a nominal charge, well worth the fee. If you really want to get some history of the local area, historical, going all the way back to actually even back into the 1800s, this is a cool place to start. Not just driving through Fort Nelson, but stopping off and taking time to learn more about the area that you're visiting. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks for signing in again, and thank you for your personal guided tour.
You're welcome.